My sister's fiancé was my ex, and when I exposed him, my family disowned me. Now he's trying to get back with me just days before their wedding. I, 19F, come from a super religious family where everyone marries fast through matchmakers. I'm the black sheep because I left religion and started dating casually. My sister Marie, 25F, is the family favorite. Beautiful, smart, outgoing, but she struggled to find a husband. After a string of failed matches, she finally got engaged last month to Christopher, 30mm. Everyone was relieved because she'd been trying for so long. I was happy for her until I met the fiancé. Christopher and I hooked up last year. For context, the age gap between us isn't the issue, so please don't bring it up. We met at a party, and despite being religious, he's divorced and didn't seem concerned about staying pure. We hooked up 5 times. He was my first everything. Kiss, hook up, all of it. After the 5th time, he said he was falling for me, but I wasn't looking for anything serious, so I ended things before it got too complicated. Especially because I knew he wanted to eventually get remarried, and I was not the girl for that. We hadn't seen each other since, until Marie brought him home as her fiancé. The second we locked eyes, I knew we were both thinking, oh shit. Later that night, Christopher pulled me aside, begging me not to tell Marie. He said it meant nothing. It was in the past, and telling her would only ruin her happiness. He texted and called me for a week, saying how much Marie had been through and how I'd destroy her life if I told her. I kept my mouth shut at first. I didn't want to hurt her, but the guilt was eating me alive, like I was watching her walk into a disaster. I felt like she deserved to know. So, I told her. At first, Marie didn't believe me. She said I was trying to sabotage her happiness because I couldn't stand being single. I had to show her the texts and photos to prove it. When she finally accepted the truth, she lost it. She confronted Christopher and he denied everything, until she shoved the evidence in his face. Marie called off the engagement. That's when things really hit the fan. My parents and some relatives told me I should have kept quiet. They said I'd ruined Marie's one shot at happiness and called me selfish for interfering. Now, I'm not even invited to the wedding. Yep, they got back together, but I'll get to that. It gets worse. While Marie and Christopher were dating, he randomly called me saying he wanted to reconnect. He was rather vague, but it was obviously a booty call. I didn't know he was dating at the time, and definitely didn't know he was dating my sister. I let him down firmly and didn't engage because I had no interest. After telling Marie about our hookup, I mentioned this call because I thought she should know he wasn't as faithful while they were dating as she thought he was, but that backfired spectacularly. Marie accused me of making up lies to tear them apart. Christopher denied everything and said I was obsessed with him. Marie sided with him and called me, quote, a desperate home-wrecking whore. Since I deleted my call history, I had no proof. It became a he said, she said situation, and Marie believed him. Now, Marie and Christopher are back together, and they're getting married. She showed up at my apartment a few weeks after the fight, crying. Apparently, Christopher convinced her that what happened between us was just a meaningless mistake, and that it made him realize how much he wanted to be with her. I tried to explain that he had told me he was falling for me, not to make it seem like he still liked me, just to show her he's lying to her about what he felt for me, but she just got angrier and called me a jealous liar and some other pretty names I won't repeat before storming out. Now I'm completely cut off from family events. My parents say I've caused enough damage, and extended family members are calling me a slut both behind my back and to my face. Every attempt I've made to explain myself has been shut down. So yeah, they're getting married anyway. And here I am wondering if I just blew up her engagement for nothing. Should I have just stayed quiet? Did I do the right thing, or did I just ruin my relationship with my family for no reason? Update 1. So, after everything blew up in my face with Marie and Christopher, I honestly thought the situation couldn't get any worse. Turns out I was wrong. Way wrong. If you thought being called a desperate home-wrecking whore by your own sister was bad, try being completely ghosted by your family. Not even a text, call, or a passive-aggressive "how could you" from my mom. Nothing. Just silence. It feels like I don't even exist to them anymore. It's like I'm in some twisted family purgatory where they're all pretending I'm dead, except when they're throwing shade at me behind my back. My cousin, who still talks to me secretly, told me that my parents are fully on Marie's side now. They're helping her plan the wedding like nothing ever happened. It's like the engagement drama never existed, and I'm just the black sheep they threw into the void to keep everything neat and tidy. Apparently, Marie's narrative about me being jealous and wanting to sabotage her happiness has spread like wildfire. Now, extended family members who I haven't spoken to in years are sending messages to my mom, asking if I'm okay, or if I need help with my personal issues. Personal issues, as if trying to tell the truth about a guy who slept with me and then got engaged to my sister is some kind of mental breakdown. But here's where things get even weirder. Last week, out of nowhere, Christopher texted me. Yes, you read that right. The guy who's about to marry my sister after convincing everyone that I'm a lying slut decided to reach out. I hadn't heard from him since the last time he begged me to keep quiet about our past, but suddenly, there he was, sliding into my DMs like it was no big deal. The message was short, just, "Hey, can we talk?" As if we were friends who needed to catch up or something. I was completely thrown off guard and honestly, a little sick to my stomach. After everything, why was he trying to talk to me now? I ignored it at first. There was no way I was going to get dragged into more drama with him, especially since I knew it could only end badly for me. But then he texted again, this time more insistent. He said he needed to clear the air before the wedding and that it was important we talk. I'm not going to lie, curiosity got the best of me. Against my better judgment, I agreed to meet up. I didn't want to do it over text, and I figured it would be better to hear whatever bullshit excuse he had in person so I could look him in the eye while I told him to go to hell. We met up at this little coffee shop far enough from home that I wouldn't run into anyone. When I saw him, I immediately felt a pit in my stomach. He looked nervous, like he knew he was walking a tightrope and one wrong step would send him falling. He started off with the same old, "I never wanted to hurt you" spiel, which I cut off right away because at this point, I've heard it all before. I asked him straight up why he wanted to talk now after everything that's happened. That's when he dropped the bomb. Apparently, Christopher had been feeling conflicted ever since I told Marie the truth. He said that while he does love Marie, part of him never got over what we had. He claimed that after I ended things between us, he felt lost and confused because he thought we had something real. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. This guy was about to marry my sister, and here he was, confessing that he still had feelings for me. It felt like I had stepped into some kind of sick soap opera. I immediately shut him down. I told him that whatever he thought he felt for me didn't matter because he was engaged to my sister, and there was no way in hell I was going to entertain his bullshit any further. But he didn't stop there. He went on to say that he wasn't sure if he could go through with the wedding and that he needed to figure out his feelings before it was too late. At this point, I was seeing red. How dare he try to drag me into his mess again? After everything I went through with Marie, he had the audacity to show up, days before the wedding, and try to pin his cold feet on me. I told him in no uncertain terms that his problems were not my problems. I wasn't going to be his backup plan or his emotional dumping ground. He chose to get engaged to my sister, and he needed to own that decision, not try to drag me back into his twisted little game. I left the coffee shop before he could say anything else because I couldn't stand to look at him anymore. I was furious, not just with him, but with myself for even agreeing to meet him in the first place. It felt like I had just given him another opportunity to mess with my life, and I hated that I had let him. When I got home, I felt sick to my stomach. I kept replaying the conversation in my head, wondering if I should tell Marie what had happened. Part of me felt like I should. I mean, she deserved to know that her fiancé was having doubts just days before their wedding. But then I remembered how things went last time I tried to tell her the truth. She didn't believe me then, and there was no way she'd believe me now. If anything, it would just make things worse for me. Christopher would probably twist the story and make it seem like I was the one trying to sabotage the wedding, and Marie would eat it up like she did before. I didn't have the energy to go through all that again. So I'm stuck. Do I tell her and risk blowing up my life again? Or do I stay quiet and let her walk into this mess of a marriage with a guy who's clearly not ready for it? Part of me feels guilty for not saying anything, but another part of me is just so tired. I've already lost my family, and I'm not sure if I can handle losing even more. But at the same time, I hate the thought of sitting back and watching her marry someone who doesn't deserve her. especially when he's already proven he's willing to cheat and lie. I don't know what to do. I'm damned if I do, damned if I don't. Update 2. All right, buckle up because things have officially gone off the rails. I thought the situation couldn't get any worse after my last encounter with Christopher, but I was wrong. Again. It feels like every time I think I've hit rock bottom with this whole mess, someone comes along and starts digging deeper. So here's how everything completely fell apart. After that weird, unsettling conversation with Christopher at the coffee shop, I decided I wasn't going to say anything to Marie. I mean, why bother? Last time I tried to warn her about Christopher, I was met with accusations, name-calling, and being blacklisted from my own family. So I kept quiet, thinking it was the only way to keep whatever shred of peace I had left in my life. But of course, things didn't stay quiet for long. A few days after our talk, I started getting these anonymous texts. At first, they were vague, just messages like, "You should stay away," or "You're causing more problems than you know." I figured it was one of Marie's friends, or maybe even one of our cousins, trying to scare me into staying out of the wedding drama. I ignored them at first, but the messages kept coming, and they got more personal. One of them mentioned the exact coffee shop where I had met Christopher, saying, "You think no one saw you, but people are always watching." That one freaked me out. I hadn't told anyone about that meeting, and I couldn't figure out how someone else knew. Then, one night, I got a message that sent a chill down my spine. It said, "Tell Marie, or I will." I had no idea what that was supposed to mean or who could have sent it, but it left me feeling anxious. Was Christopher playing some kind of sick game? Was he trying to manipulate me into confessing to Marie again, just to get me out of the picture for good? I was paranoid, constantly checking my phone, waiting for the next threat to drop. I couldn't handle the stress anymore, so I did something I never thought I'd do. I called my mom. I hadn't spoken to her since the whole family turned their backs on me, but I needed to know if she had heard anything or if someone from the family was messing with me. She didn't pick up at first, but when she finally did, it was the coldest conversation of my life. I could tell from the second she answered that she didn't want to talk to me. She barely let me get a word in before she cut me off, telling me I had caused enough damage and that Marie and Christopher's wedding was happening whether I liked it or not. That's when I knew I couldn't go to my family for help. I was completely on my own. A week before the wedding, I got the final text that pushed me over the edge. It said, "If you don't tell her, I will ruin both of you." I was freaking out at this point. I had no idea who was sending these messages, but it was clear that they weren't just empty threats anymore. Whoever this was, they knew everything about what happened between Christopher and me, and they were planning to blow it all up right before the wedding. I felt trapped. If I didn't tell Marie, someone else would, and it would probably be even worse coming from them. But if I told her again, I knew I'd just be setting myself up for more pain and rejection. So against every instinct screaming at me not to, I decided to tell her. This time, I wanted to do it in person. No texts, no evidence, just face-to-face, laying it all out there. I needed her to hear it from me directly, even if it destroyed what little was left of our relationship. I showed up at her place the night before her wedding. When she opened the door, she looked surprised to see me. I could tell from the expression on her face that she wasn't expecting me, and part of me wondered if she was dreading it. But I didn't give myself time to second guess. I told her I needed to talk, just the two of us. She hesitated, but eventually let me in. I told her everything. I didn't sugarcoat it, and I didn't try to spin it to make myself look better. I told her about Christopher reaching out to me, about his doubts, and about the fact that he still had feelings for me. I told her how he had tried to meet up with me, and how he wasn't sure he could go through with the wedding. The whole time I was talking, she just stared at me, her face completely blank. I couldn't tell if she was angry, hurt, or just numb. When I finished, there was this long, horrible silence. I thought she was going to explode, call me a liar again, or worse, start crying. But instead, she just looked at me and said, "I already knew." That was the last thing I expected to hear. Marie told me that Christopher had confessed to her the day before, claiming that he had been feeling guilty about our past and that he needed to come clean before they got married. According to him, he was worried that I would try to sabotage their wedding out of jealousy, and he wanted to make sure there were no more secrets between him and Marie. She believed him. She thought his confession was a sign that he was truly committed to her and that he was being honest before they started their life together. I was speechless. Christopher had managed to flip the entire situation on its head and somehow make himself look like the good guy, all while painting me as the villain yet again. I tried to explain that it wasn't about jealousy or sabotage, that he was the one who wasn't ready for the wedding, and that he was still trying to manipulate both of us. But it was no use. Marie didn't want to hear it. She was too far gone. She told me that she didn't care about what happened between Christopher and me, that it was in the past, and that she had chosen to forgive him. She said she was moving forward with the wedding, and that she wanted me to stay out of her life from now on. "You've done enough damage," she said before showing me the door. That was it, the final nail in the coffin of my relationship with my sister. The wedding happened the next day. I didn't go, obviously. I wasn't invited, and even if I had been, there was no way I could have stood there and watched her marry a guy who had lied to both of us. I heard through the grapevine, thanks to my cousin, that it was a beautiful ceremony, and everyone was talking about how perfect they were together. It made me sick. As for me, I'm still trying to pick up the pieces of my life. My family is still pretending I don't exist, and I'm pretty sure I'm the permanent black sheep now. But you know what? Maybe that's for the best. I've spent too much time trying to be a part of a family that would rather believe lies than face the truth. So yeah, that's it. I told the truth, I did what I thought was right, and in the end, I lost everything. But at least I'm done with the drama. They can keep their twisted version of happiness. I'm finally done trying to fix it.